Okay, we'll call this meeting to order at 6:02. Commissioner Corona, could you lead us in a pledge of allegiance? Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. Okay, we'll call this meeting to order at 6:02. Commissioner Corona, could you lead us in a pledge of allegiance? Okay, can we have roll call, please?
Commissioners David Huboy,
Present.
Commissioner Kevin Henderson,
Present.
Commissioner Luke Corona,
Present.
Commissioner Stephen Belong.
Commissioner Belong was just appointed by the council, so he's not yet been sworn in. So his attendance won't be taken for tonight's meeting, but he should hopefully be able to join us for his first meeting next month.
And Commissioner Roxanne Stevens.
Okay, thank you. Can we have verification of agenda posting?
The agenda was posted on Monday, September 19th, 2022 at 1:08 p.m. at City Hall.
Okay, now we have the approval of minutes for August 25th, 2022.
Vice Chair Henderson, on the minutes, I did notice just a typo on page 7 of 9. There is a motion to adopt resolution 2022-12 on that page, and then that is for the vesting tentative map. But then it also says adopt resolution 2022-12 for the conditional use permit. And if we could get a correction that in the previous minutes and at the meeting, that was resolution 2022-13 for the CUP. So with that amendment. Typo.
Okay, so can we get a motion to correct the minutes as described?
I'll make the motion to approve the minutes with the amendment that Eva described.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, any more discussion? Okay, roll call vote.
Commissioner David Huboy,
Yes.
Commissioner Luke Corona,
Yes.
Vice Chair Henderson.
Yes.
The motion carries unanimous.
Okay, we'll now begin the public input. This is the time for anyone in the audience to speak on any item not on the agenda and within the subject matter jurisdiction of the Planning Commission. Speaking cards are available in the lobby and are to be completed and given to the secretary before speaking. When the secretary calls your name, please come to the podium, state your name and city for the record, and speak to the City Planning Commission. If you're joining us by Zoom, please click on the bottom of your screen to raise your hand. If you are joining us by Zoom using a cell phone, please press *9. Each speaker will be limited to 3 minutes with a maximum of 30 minutes per subject. Please note that state law prohibits the Planning Commission from discussing or taking action on any item not on the agenda. Do we have any speakers?
I have no speakers.
Okay, so we'll close the public hearing. And we'll move on to item 1, Site and Architectural Review 2021-12. City Attorney, do I need to read the entire item, or can I just state we're on item 1 or item 2?
Yeah, you don't have to read the whole description.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So do we have a staff report on item 1?
Yes, thank you, Vice Chair Henderson. This will be Erica Fraser.
Good evening. Tonight, you'll be looking at a site and architectural review for a new industrial building located at 1901 Lana Way, and it's for the Polar Service Company. 1901 Lana Way is located within an existing a developed industrial area. As you can see on the map before you, there are some vacant areas surrounding the site, but for the most part, you can see that industrial development has been constructed in the past, and most of the uses in the area are industrial. Next slide, thanks. The 1901 Lana Way, the applicant for 1901 Lana Way is proposing to construct a 6,639 square foot building and related improvements. The new building will be comprised of 3,039 square feet of office space, as well as 3,600 square feet of warehouse space. The office space will be used to support Polar Service Company, which has several buildings in the area. And the warehouse space will be used to hold company trucks that they use to go out on service calls. The site is 1.01 acres. And there are two entrances off Lana Way that you can see with the two arrows. The two entrances provide exiting and two opportunities for exiting and entering the site. And as you can see, closer to the rear of the building, there will be two gates on either side to block access to the rear. There will be some parking spaces at the rear, 5 total spaces for employees, as well as you can see on the left and the right side of the map, parking for trailers and trucks that are used for service calls for the company. Those trucks and trailers will be gone during the day and then will be stored there at night. Views of those trailers and trucks will be blocked by the fact that the trailers and trucks are over 190 feet from Lana Way. Views will be further blocked by landscaping and the proposed gates. At the front, closer to Lana Way, there is a trash enclosure. You can go next slide. And for the trash enclosure, the reason that it needs to be located not behind the fences is because the fences will be locked and Recology would be unable to access the trash in the enclosure. So the applicant has proposed to plant vines around the trash enclosure as well as shrubs. And the picture that you can see before you is kind of a rendition, but those shrubs will be taller in height than what you can see here. And the purpose is to really block views of the enclosure. There will also be trees both along Lana Way and closer to the enclosure, which will block any views of this. And in order to make sure that this trash enclosure doesn't have any impacts on the site or the surrounding buildings, there have been several conditions of approval that have been included into the resolution that relate to keeping the doors closed at all time, putting signage on the trash enclosure, stating that the doors have to be closed, and then continuously sweeping and cleaning up any debris that may fall out around the trash enclosure. The applicant did agree to those conditions of approval, so they are aware of them. There is also a condition of approval in there that says that if this becomes an issue, that the director can notify them and they would have to move it later on if we can't come to some sort of agreement on maintenance of the enclosure. Next slide. This is the Lana Way elevation. This is the only elevation that is visible from the street. This elevation has a number of colors and materials to break up the monotony of the building. The area that you see in the back is the warehouse. The area that you see in the front is the office, and that the office will have a mixture of stucco and vertical metal sliding. They're all painted. The two sides flanking the main entrance will have vertical siding painted one color, and then the second will be painted another color. There are windows and doors, as well as awnings over each of the window to really promote interest of the site and to meet the requirements of the general plan and the zoning ordinance. The rear portion of the building is set back further. You can see the height difference between the two, and that will have vertical siding painted to also meet the requirements of the zoning ordinance. Next slide. This is the side. This is an example of the side. The side doesn't really change. You can see the south. You can see where some of that material wraps around, and we have the rear warehouse portion. And then of course in the back, it's just roll-up doors. Now, for the most part, the south side and the east side will not be visible from the street because they're blocked by existing development. The north side will only be visible partially, it is a great distance away from the road, but there is no building in between the road and this building at the time, at the building once this is constructed. So for a little while, you may see a portion of it. In the future, you won't, but even with being able to see it, they do have a mix in materials and they've wrapped around those enhanced materials to the side. They're painting it. And so even this elevation does meet the requirements of the zoning ordinance. Next slide, please. The applicant is proposing, as I mentioned before, to do a mix of office and warehouse to support their use, and pursuant to the zoning ordinance, staff has to calculate the parking requirements for each of those uses. So for the office space, they're required to have 12.2 parking spaces. For the warehouse space, that's a little bit smaller, and they're required to have 3.6 spaces. And for bicycle, 0.8. Now we do round up. As far as bicycle parking goes, they're required to have 1. They will be providing 2. And then for the remainder of the parking, they are parking exactly based on what they need according to this chart. So there's no surplus on the site, but they have exactly what they need. Next slide, please. This is their landscaping plan. As you can see, they have a variety of landscaping as well as bioswales. In reviewing the proposed application, staff noticed that street trees were missing, as well as the required percentage of landscaping that's necessary or that's required under the zoning ordinance. So as these plans were preliminary and not final landscape plans get submitted during the building permit phase. I spoke with the applicant and we discussed all the ways that they need to comply with the zoning ordinance, such as providing street trees per our approved street tree list and planting them 30 feet on center, as well as increasing the number of shrubs and plantings in the bioswale area so that they meet the 10% minimum requirement under the zoning ordinance. Those concerns are included as conditions of approval that require them to show them on the final landscape plans. And once again, the applicant agreed to those conditions and said that they will absolutely do it on the final plans. Next slide, please. So in conclusion, the project is consistent with the setbacks height limit for buildings in the light industrial zoning district. As conditioned, the proposed project is consistent with the requirements for landscaping in the zoning ordinance. The project will have adequate parking spaces to support the use. The building design meets the requirements of the zoning ordinance and is well designed in and of itself and in relationship to the surrounding area. The project is consistent with the goals and policies of the general plan. And this project is exempt from CEQA pursuant to class 32 infill development because the site is 1.01 acre in size and is surrounded by industrial development. And staff is recommending that you adopt a resolution approving site and architecture review 2021-12, subject to the conditions of approval contained in the resolution. That concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have on the project.
Mr. Chair, I do have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
I don't think this is in the area of a business park, but are we certain about that? Is this also subject to business park approval?
No.
I don't think it was. I think it's a little bit outside that area.
So
Just wanted to make sure.
yeah, this is just in our standard M1 zoning, and the industrial business park is more the technology parkway side north of
Okay.
Fallon, not the Shelton Lana side south of Fallon.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions for staff?
Just one. So on the trash enclosure,
Mm-hmm.
they are found not to comply. Are they going to still leave it on the outside, or will we move to the inside?
So there is no requirement that it is located behind. We typically request that it's located behind because it's easier to screen. In this case, because of the truck trailer parking, the fact that they have to have a locked gate to protect the vehicles, and so that Recology can have access to actually pick up their bins from the trash enclosure, we've made the compromise with them that they're going to take care of this trash enclosure extremely well, and that they're going to clean it. And then eventually it will be screened. Once the landscaping all grows in, you have vines on the side of the building, you have shrubs located directly in front of it with the height up to 6 feet. And then you have a row of trees along Lana Way, plus additional trees in that bioswale. You shouldn't see it once the landscaping matures. But we do want to make sure that they maintain it properly, keep that landscaping healthy and growing, and that they do clean up after themselves.
Who would be enforcing?
It'll be planning and code enforcement.
Okay,
Similar to if we had a trash enclosure without the conditions of approval, it's a little bit harder to enforce them cleaning up around it, but we still can. This one just gives us an extra layer of protection because they have a condition of approval, and they have a further condition of approval that says if they don't take care of it, we can make them move it.
okay, thank
Well,
you.
in reality, it would have to be demolished and
Yeah.
built.
Any other questions for staff? Okay, we'll open the public comment at 6:18. Any speakers?
I have no speaker cards. Let me just check and see if we have anyone. And I have no hands raised.
Okay, we'll close the public comment at 6:18.
I did have a question for the applicant. I was looking at and I understand in the staff report, the warehouse would be used for storage of vehicles. Is that correct?
Yes.
Because I noticed a 2-hour wall separation between an S2 and a B. I think it's probably because of the combustible gases from the vehicles is my guess, but that would.
That would be my guess, but that sort of stuff, takes precedence over planning, and they will evaluate it at building permit.
Right, so I just wanted to get clarification if there was any hazardous materials.
Right now, they indicated that as part of their written statement, there's no hazardous materials.
Okay. That's the only question I had.
Okay. Any other questions, comments about the project? All right, what's the pleasure of the commission?
Well, Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion here to adopt PC resolution number
2022-14 will be the next resolution.
2022-14 and approve site and architectural review 2021-12 with the draft conditions, including the landscape plan would need to be approved administratively to comply with the 10%.
Okay, we have a motion. Any further discussion or a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion, a second. Any further discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner David Hubler,
Yes.
Commissioner Luke Corona,
Yes.
Vice Chair Kevin Henderson.
Yes,
Motion carries unanimously.
thank you. We'll move on to item 2, minor subdivision 2022-2. Do we have a staff report?
Yes, this will be Liz Gagliardi, our associate planner.
All right, good evening, commissioners. I'm going to be presenting on this minor subdivision number 2022-2. The applicant is BBEC Development Co., and this project is located just north of the intersection of 4th Street and West Side Boulevard. Sure. All right, so on the screen here, you'll see a diagram of the project location. As I indicated, this parcel is located just north of the intersection of 4th Street and West Side Boulevard. This is currently legally one parcel. It is intersected by West Side Boulevard, and the portion of the parcel, the larger portion, is in the West Gateway zoning district. And that smaller portion of the parcel on the opposite side of West Side Boulevard is actually in the neighborhood mixed use zoning district. So it's currently one parcel spanning the road there with two separate zoning designations. And these two parcels also have distinct assessor parcel numbers, which are outlined in the staff report as well. And this is just showing the site plan. This proposal will just subdivide this parcel into those two portions, essentially just separating those pieces that are on opposite sides of West Side Boulevard into two distinct legal parcels that could be sold separately and developed independent of one another. So our analysis of this project is that it's consistent with the general plan and zoning ordinance, seeing as the parcel is currently recognized as one legal parcel with two separate assessor parcel numbers that are in different zoning and general plan designations already. This subdivision will just kind of distinguish between those two separate pieces and allow for future development to be reviewed consistently with the appropriate zoning districts and general plan designations that already exist across the parcel. So it's essentially just a clarification of that kind of already dividing line of West Side Boulevard into a legal subdivision. And this is exempt from CEQA pursuant to Class 15 minor land divisions. And just to clarify, there's no proposed development with this minor subdivision application. So it would simply be recording that parcel map to indicate the separation of those two pieces. And I did just want to go through the draft conditions of approval. We have some recommended revisions. And while there are quite a few conditions that we are recommending revisions to, the purpose behind this is to clarify that some of the conditions that were included in the original draft resolution are indicating conditions that would be applicable if there were a development proposed with the subdivision, but because there's no development proposed, we're recommending clarification that this would just be for the subdivision and there's no proposed development. So for that first one, the changes are shown in red and strike throughs are shown in places where we're indicating a deletion. So for that first one, I did just want to clarify that the proposed subdivision shall be in conformance. This is a subdivision with no development proposed, hence the distinction. And then for the next one, we're proposing a change that would read, the parcel map shall be in substantial conformance with the tentative map for the minor subdivision. This language was agreed upon with our city engineer and just clarifies that the conformance would be in conformance with the tentative map because there's no development on the parcel. Similarly, under number 15, we're just proposing a deletion there at the end. And this is because some of the items that are outlined by the municipal code in chapter 16 are having to do with development of the parcel. So those particular items would not be required, but everything else that goes along with the subdivision would still be required. And then there's a few where we just wanted to clarify that the final approval will be of a parcel map and not a final map. And that distinction is just for the minor subdivision. So very kind of routine corrections, but I did just want to highlight those few revisions. And then we did also want to propose the deletion of the following conditions. There's quite a few. So in the interest of brevity, I just listed the numbers here. So it's going to be conditions 7 through 12, 16 through 36, 38 through 48, 50 through 54, and 56 through 79. And the reason being those conditions are all associated with subdivision improvements or development, of which there is none proposed on this parcel. So with that, I will conclude with the recommendation to approve the subdivision by the following motion with those recommended revisions and deletions to the conditions as discussed. And I would be happy to answer any questions that the commissioners may have as well.
Well, thank you for the report. Any questions for staff? I had a curiosity question. I was just wondering how a parcel ends up with a road going through it.
It's a good question. It must have, I don't know when West Side was approved to be constructed, but it was constructed as if it was a easement right of way, but it was never a true subdivision of the parcels for some reason.
I believe West Side Boulevard was extended fairly well within not too long ago, and I believe that that parcel was pre-existing prior to the extension of West Side Boulevard is my guess.
Yeah, the parcel definitely existed before West Side Boulevard, and my guess is it might have been that the right of way was given by another means other than a map, maybe some kind of other means to dedicate the right of way, and so it was just never formally divided with a recorded map.
Could you just clarify the difference in the zoning between the two parcels?
Sure. So that they're both mixed use zoning designations. The neighborhood mixed use is the larger portion of the parcel, and then the smaller portion is in the West Gateway zoning district. Oh, I'm sorry. The West Gateway is the larger portion and the neighborhood mixed use is the smaller portion. And without getting into too many specifics, I believe the West Gateway is intended to be more of a kind of entrance to the city along 4th Street there. And then the neighborhood mixed use is intended to provide a mixed use of commercial and residential on those parcels.
Thank you. Any further questions for staff? Okay, we'll go ahead and open the public comment at 6:28. Any speakers?
I don't have any speaker cards, and I do not have any hands raised.
Okay, we'll close the public comment at 6:28. Right, any further discussion? So what is the pleasure of the commission?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion on item number 2 to adopt PC Resolution 2022-15, is my guess. Okay. And approve minor subdivision 2022-2 with the deletions and amendments to conditions as outlined in the staff report.
Okay, we have a motion. Any discussion or a second? I'll go ahead and second the motion. Can we have a roll call vote?
Commissioner David Huboy,
Yes.
Commissioner Luke Corona,
Yes.
Vice Chair Kevin Henderson.
Yes,
The motion carries unanimously.
thank you. Move on to item 3, which is tentative map number 2020-1, site and architectural review 2020-9 extension. Can we get a staff report, please?
Yes, this will also be Liz Gaglione.
Okay, so this item is actually for an extension of a previous approval, tentative map 2020-1 and site and architectural review 2020-9. And these projects were previously approved by resolution 2020-15 and 2020-16 and are set to expire. So this application would be to extend that approval by an additional year. So just to provide an overview of the project location, the site address is 2001 Memorial Drive, highlighted here. And actually this aerial photo was the most up to date that I was able to find. But some of this land that comes up as vacant surrounding the parcel has actually been developed with residential. So the site is fully surrounded by residential development. And the proposal is to subdivide this parcel, which is 1.7 acres, into 6 lots and construct multifamily residential units with attached accessory dwelling units on each lot. So there's currently an existing single-family home on the site, which is proposed to be demolished. And then 2 of the lots within the development will be developed with duplex units with 2 attached accessory dwelling units. And the other 4 remaining lots would be developed with triplex units, each with 2 accessory dwelling units. So this would be a total of 16 3-bedroom multifamily units with a total of 12 one-bedroom accessory dwelling units. And then with this proposed subdivision and site and architectural review, there's also a proposal to extend Memorial Drive to loop onto Hermosa Way to provide access to the site. And this is in the R3 medium density residential zoning district. So these are just some of the elevations for the proposed structures on the property. So these are the duplex units, which will be proposed to be built on lots 1 and 2. And these have 1-car garages that are attached to the duplex units, and accessory dwelling unit on either side of that duplex. And these, again, will be on lots 1 and 2 on the northern side of that extension of Memorial Drive. And then for the triplex units that are being proposed on lots 3, 4, and 5, these are the elevations for those. It's a triplex unit with 2 accessory dwelling units on either side. And these will all be identical on lots 3, 4, and 5 with slightly different orientations to match the lot layouts. And then on lot 6, a triplex unit is also proposed. This one has a slightly different elevation just to fit into that lot layout there. So the accessory dwelling unit is kind of oriented towards the side, which you can see on the left elevation. Its front entrance would be off of that side. But otherwise, pretty similar elevation to the other triplex units being proposed on the other lots. And these are the color samples for the proposed development. They will all be the same color scheme, with the upstairs body being this green color, the downstairs body being a complementary brown color with a contrasting white trim. And the materials for these will be a mix of stucco and siding. And this project does meet the required parking per the municipal code. 1.5 spaces are required for 1 or 2 bedroom units, and 2 spaces each are required for units with 3 bedrooms or more. And guest parking is required at 1 space per every 4 units. So as you can see in the chart here, this project exactly meets the parking requirements with the spaces provided. And for the duplex units, those spaces are provided both in the attached garages and on the driveway. And for the triplex units, each individual lot does meet the parking requirements, though there's also a shared parking lot access proposed with the project. And one of the original conditions of approval is for the applicant to submit to the city a parking and access agreement outlining that shared access will be formally recorded. And this just shows the proposed landscaping with the site. As you can see, street trees are provided with a mix of evergreen and deciduous trees and shrubs throughout the site. And I did just want to point out a couple of conditions of approval that are being proposed to be added on with the extension. And these are really just to make sure that the extension is in conformance with standards that have been developed since the original approval. So the first one is proposed by the planning division that the applicant shall submit a site plan just showing that the trash enclosures will be able to accommodate 3-stream system for waste, which is the standard per Recology. So we just want to verify that that trash enclosure does meet the standard for 3-stream. And then the other 2 conditions of approval that I did just want to highlight, which are in the attached resolution, are coming from the fire department. And they would like to see the fire hydrants be updated. There's an existing fire hydrant on Memorial Drive and another on Hermosa Way. And that 2 new fire hydrants or more be added as required by the fire department. So in our analysis, we found that this project is consistent with the intent of the R3 zoning district. Duplex and triplex units are both permitted by right in the zoning district. The project also proposes attached accessory dwelling units, which are permitted consistent with Government Code Section 65852.2, which allows accessory dwelling units as a ministerial approval. And I will note that accessory dwelling units do not count towards density calculations per state law. So those 12 accessory dwelling units, which are being proposed on this site, do not count towards the overall density calculation. The proposed project meets the parking requirements as I outlined previously per the code. Residential open space requirements are met through private yard space provided with each duplex and triplex unit. And the design is consistent with the previous approval that was approved back in 2020. This is consistent with the goals and policies of the general plan, and the project is exempt from CEQA pursuant to Class 32, as it's an infill project on a site of 1.70 acres. So with that, staff is recommending that the Planning Commission review the applicant's request, receive all written and oral testimony, and then make a motion to approve this one-year extension to the project. And that concludes my report. I'll take any questions that commissioners may have.
Okay, any questions for staff? Okay. Okay, we'll go ahead and open the public comment at 6:38. Any speakers?
I do have a speaker, Ann Hall.
Good evening. I'm here, Ann Hall with 72 Engineering. I'm here on behalf of the applicant. As staff has presented, this is a project that you saw in 2020 and approved. The applicant has been working toward getting this completed. As you know, during 2020, there were some challenges with getting things done. One of the first steps was getting the house demoed. There were some delays with PG&E coordination because they had to shut stuff off, the gas and electrical connections. The house has been demolished with the permit. There was some road extension associated with the development next door, but nonetheless, we've been moving forward. We have improvement plans done, a final map done. They've been submitted. They've gone through one review plan check. We have prepared to turn them back in again, but we did go through Recology. We recently received approval from Recology for the trash enclosures. So now that we have that, we're going to turn our plans back in, and I anticipate that we should get approval before the end of the year, and we're going to go forward with construction. So the applicant is committed to this project. We just need a little more time to keep moving forward. Like I said, some of the challenges associated with COVID during 2021 put a delay on our anticipated timeframe. We have no issue with the additional conditions, with one exception. In the comment about the trash enclosure, like I said, we just did coordinate with Recology. We have the 3 streamways. They approved it. The hose bib, all those conditions are fine. But the very last sentence says the trash enclosure design and location will be subject to approval. The design is fine, but the location was approved previously. As you could see on the plans that were presented, there's not a lot of room to spare on this site. It is meeting the higher density for this area. The trash enclosures are pretty much the only place we have to put them. So I would just like to remove the and location because these plans are in works. They don't see a place to prove it. And I don't want that to be a future discussion when we think we're already done. Do you have any questions for me?
I'm good.
Thank you.
Any speakers? Any other speakers?
I have no more cards. Just give me 1 second.
Thank you, Ann.
And I have no hands raised.
Okay, thank you. We'll close the public comment at 6:41. So what are the thoughts for the commission on this?
Mr. Chair, I think as I recall, when we deliberated on this item number 3 is that, and I concur with it does answer a need for rental housing that this community really needs. Certainly does respond to our housing element, current housing element. As far as the trash enclosure locations, I'm looking at the site plan. You've got one that's close to the drive entrance, makes it convenient for trash trucks. And the other one is also right off the extension there. I don't remember what was the name of the
It's Memorial Drive.
Memorial Drive. Yeah, so I'm fine with the locations that we previously approved.
So I had a question. Is this is going to be rentals for sure, or individually owned, or?
They're going to be rentals. In order to be individually sold, they would have to come back to you with a condominium map, which is not what is being proposed at this time. So they are multifamily, multiple units on each lot.
All right. I'd like to invite a motion with the items we've discussed, the modifications we've discussed.
Okay, I'll make the motion on item number 3 to adopt PC resolution 2022-16 and approve, and I'll have to make 2 separate motions for the extension of the tentative map and also the site and architectural review, or can I include that in one motion?
Defer to the city attorney, but I believe since it's an extension, the one motion would be fine.
That's correct.
Okay,
So one
so
motion is adequate, yeah.
to extend tentative map number 2020-1 and site and architectural review 2020-9 with the additional conditions. However, the location, I'd like to amend the condition number 11 that the design and location of those trash enclosures as indicated on the site plan and previously approved is fine.
So
it's-
do we
it's
want to
not- it's
remove?
Not subject to approval of the Director of Development Services.
The location only,
Just the
not the
location.
design.
I will just add that staff's thought on the location was just if they got bigger, that's technically the location. So we're fine removing the location from it too.
And I heard Recology is fine with the design of the trash enclosures, right? The 3-stream
That's what it sounds like.
with the roof structure and the P-trap and the grease interceptor. Okay,
Are we scratching the whole sentence or just the and location? Just for clarification for the minutes.
I'd like the last sentence strike the last sentence on condition number 11.
Okay, is the motion clear? All right. All right, any further discussion or a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. We'll go ahead and go with a roll call vote.
Commissioner David Huboy,
Yes,
Commissioner Luke Corona,
Yes.
Vice Chair Kevin Henderson.
Yes. So the motion approves 3-0. We'll move on to item 4. Tentative map 2021-4, conditional use permit 2021-1 for a planned unit development. Can we get the staff report, please?
Yes, that will be me. So this is a vesting tentative map and a conditional use permit for a planned unit development. The project is located off of North Chapel Road and east of the Highway 25 bypass. It is located within our Chapel Road master plan area. The Planning Commission did see a map for this parcel back in June of this year, and there was a discussion regarding density. And the applicant has chosen to amend their previous submittal, which what the Planning Commission might recall had 95 lots. And they are proposing now a subdivision of the 13.79 acres into 85 lots. They have amended parcel A, you will see is a little bit larger here. And then they've also reduced the number of lots in these four kind of rows of housing and widened some of the lots, which are proposed to have ADUs attached to the development. So the current proposal at hand is for 85 total lots, 82 new lots for residential development. And then there are 3 additional parcels. One is parcel A, which has an existing house that will remain. There's parcel B, which is for stormwater treatment here located off of Chapel Road, and that is underground stormwater treatment. And then parcel C, which is on the east side of the parcel and borders Highway 25, which is proposed to be a parkland dedicated to the city of Hollister. The project is located within our R1 LPZ, or our low density performance overlay zoning district, which does allow and in fact encourage planned development permits to be applied for. The applicant is applying for a conditional use permit for a planned development in order to reduce some of the development standards of the R1 to provide the kind of higher density small lot variety of housing that they're proposing. So they are requesting a reduction in the minimum lot size down to 3,901 square feet at the minimum end. Some changes to the lot width minimums for their corner and interior lots, and a slight increase in lot coverage from 50 to 53% max. No change in the building height. They are requesting reduced front yard setbacks to the residence, porch, and garage, and then a reduced side yard setback for the interior lots from 6 to 5 feet. And their proposed rear yards are consistent with R1 standard 15 feet. In addition, as mentioned, the applicant is proposing a number of the lots to have ADUs attached to the single family development right off the bat. And so they are requesting slightly different from their non-ADU lots. The front yard setbacks, they are requesting a reduction to 10 feet for the residence and the porch. And then the same setback, 18 feet to the garage. And then their side yard setbacks, they're proposing a 4-foot interior setback, which is consistent with state law regarding ADUs. And then on the corner, a slight reduction in the 10-foot down to 8 feet to accommodate a slightly larger footprint, which is going to be the single family and an ADU. In addition, staff discussed with the applicant a condition regarding the fence line along their proposed parcel A and the accommodating or the contiguous lots 8 and 9. The reason that we discussed this was there's going to be a rear fence running along what will be Summer Morning Drive here in the new development. And aesthetically, we wanted to make sure that the fence both lined up across these 3 parcels here and also was significantly enough set back that there would be no sight distance issues for driveways coming out of these lots. So we've discussed this with the applicant, and staff is recommending I believe, let me make sure I say this right, but I think it is a 15-foot setback. So that's in line with the standard setback they're requesting for their non-ADU front yards. So we are recommending that this be recorded on these 3 parcels to ensure that the fences are aligned to be aesthetically pleasing and then not encroaching closer to Summer Morning Drive for sight distance issues into the future. With regard to open space, there is a proposed 1.34 acre park dedication, which is parcel C. And this is next to the Highway 25 bypass. And this is consistent with the adopted Chapel Road master plan area. And I've shown the adopted Chapel Road master plan on the left here and then highlighted our subject property. And so they're proposing a park dedication here, and we have included a condition of approval. And I'll talk a little bit more about it because we're actually going to recommend a slight change to what it's requesting. But we've included a condition of approval requiring that the review of that park design go to our Parks and Recreation Commission to ensure, and we would like to, as this area develops in the future, continue that condition of approval so that the city park commission is making sure that they are contiguous and in line with this intended master plan, using the same types of materials and those types of things. And so actually, just to stay on topic, I'm going to skip ahead one. So on that, our original condition, and for brevity, I won't read it unless you would like me to read it, but our draft condition that you saw said that prior to submitting the improvement plans, the design of the park would go to the Parks and Recreation Commission, and that recommendation would go to the City Council. However, we talked with the applicant and staff was okay with the recommended change, but we are recommending a modification to the language to say that it will go to the Parks and Recreation Commission for a recommendation, and that it will be, their recommendations will be incorporated to the park design, but unless the design is intended to go over the cost of the impact fees that the developer would otherwise pay for the park construction impact fees, it doesn't need to go to the City Council. It'll just be a Parks and Recreation Commission kind of design determination. And it would only go to the council if the commission decides that in order to meet the goal of the master plan, we need some kind of feature that would be over and above what the developer would require to pay an impact fee construction cost if they were not constructing a park, the in lieu fees. So that way the council can either reimburse the applicant, enter into a reimbursement agreement to address costs, or the council can authorize a different park design that brings the costs down. So that's our recommended condition. We've talked with the applicant about this, and both staff and the applicant are comfortable with that condition, and that'll be our recommended change. But to go back to our analysis of the project, the applicant is proposing 6.02 units per gross acre on the 13.79 acre site. And then they are proposing a net acreage calculation based on removing public and private right-of-ways. So that puts them at 7.93 units per net acre, which is consistent with the 1 to 8 dwelling units per acre allowed in our general plan and zoning. They're providing a variety of housing, including single family, detached, and also single family with attached ADUs. And they're dedicating that park that's consistent with our Chapel Road master plan for the area. With the plan unit development that they're applying for, they're consistent with the R1 LPZ zoning, and all of the modifications they're requesting are consistent with what they can request under the performance overlay zoning. And then this project has been determined by staff to be consistent with the adopted environmental impact report for the Chapel Road area pre-zoning, which was pre-zone 2015-1. And that included an analysis of this parcel as well as the entire Chapel Road master plan area. And with that is our recommendation that the Planning Commission approve a resolution adopting or approving the vesting tentative map with the change to condition 13 that we discussed, and then adopt a resolution also approving the conditional use permit with the draft conditions. Thank you.
All right, thank you for the report. Any questions for staff?
Mr. Chair, I do have a question, and that's relating to parcel B, which is 14,500 some square feet for underwater storm detention. What, since, you know, the advantage of storing water underground, you can use that area above for as an amenity for recreation or some type of possible activity associated with that. Do you know how they're planning on using parcel B once this underground stormwater detention is installed?
I don't. I do know that it's going to be landscaped. That's indicated in the plans. And I do know that it will be privately maintained, so it'll be a part of the HOA. I don't know if they'll have private open space available for their development, additional private open space, or kind of usable recreation area. But it is consistent with the undergrounding requirements of our stormwater.
Could be, somewhat of a pocket park of sorts, with low-cost amenities such as, maybe a bocce ball court or something of that nature. Would, if that is proposed, would that also be subject to the purview of the Parks and Recreation Department, parcel B, if they, other than landscaping, they possibly, it'd be nice to have a kind of a gathering place there also, other than just landscaping, is just an idea.
I think it's a good idea. Because it's privately maintained, I don't know that it necessarily would. Potentially, if the applicant agreed to something like that.
I'm just saying, as I'm encouraging the
yeah.
applicant to consider that for parcel B.
All right. Any other questions for staff? Okay, we'll move on to the public comment at 6:58. Any speakers?
I do. Augie Dent.
Good evening, Vice Chair Henderson and members of the Planning Commission. I'm Augie Dent here representing the Everglen tentative map and CUP. And my comments are going to be really brief tonight. First, just to thank staff with Adriana and Eva and Christian and Mark, if he's on there. Just thanks to you all for helping to bring us here today. And I can answer any questions, but I really have nothing else to add. I think Eva has summarized very well what we're proposing to do. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Any other speakers?
I have no other speakers.
Okay, thank you. We'll close the public comment at 6:59. So what is the pleasure of the commission?
I'd just like to thank the applicant for going through a design revision and being consistent with our current zoning ordinance based on net acreage. I think that, that bringing it up in June, it does provide some difficulty factors with redesign, and but I was important that you did that, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, I agree. I think it was a good idea to to get that issue hashed out. So, and also the municipal code changes that are coming from that too. So, any other comments? Is there a motion?
Well, Mr. Chair and Commissioner Corona, if you will, since I'm on a roll, I'd like to make a motion to adopt PC Resolution 2022-17. And I guess we'll need more than one motion on this. Yes, and approve tentative map 2021-4. And I'm not sure condition number 13, which one that is associated with.
That is the park requirement. So removing the requirement to go to the city council
Yes,
regardless.
is that associated with tentative map or the condition?
The tentative map, yes.
Tentative map. Okay, thank you, Eva. So I'd also like to include that condition number 13, that once the linear park goes through design development, it goes through the purview of the Parks and Recreation Department as outlined in the staff report.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner David Huboy,
Yes.
Commissioner Luke Corona,
Yes.
Vice Chair Kevin Henderson.
Yes,
The motion carries unanimously.
right. So we have another, can we get another motion for part two?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to make a motion to adopt PC Resolution 2022-18 and approve Conditional Use Permit 2022-1 for a plan development with the draft conditions of the in the or the findings in the draft report. Hopefully I said that right. Close enough.
Is the motion clear?
It was clear, yes.
All right, thank you.
Thank
So we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion, a second. Any further discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner David Huboy,
Yes,
Commissioner Luke Corona,
Yes.
Vice Chair Kevin Henderson.
Yes,
The motion carries unanimously.
good luck to you. You're welcome.
all right, thank you. We'll move on to new business.
I have no new business. Anyone else have new business?
Okay, old business.
I have no old business.
Thank
have
you.
none.
Any, moving on to planning department reports?
I'll just briefly provide an update. At the joint session, there was discussion of another joint session with the city council and planning commission, and I just want to update that right now we have no date for that. It's still being scheduled if it's being scheduled.
Okay, thank you. Any other reports? Moving on to planning commission reports. Any reports from the commission?
I'm looking forward to this weekend. I'm going to the Monterey Jazz Festival. Yay. Just probably a little levity to the meeting. You will. Thank you.
Thank you for that report. Any other reports from the commission? Can we get a motion to adjourn?
Go ahead, Luke, make the motion.
I'll make the motion.
I'll
to adjourn.
second it.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Roll call vote.
Commissioner David Huboy,
Yes.
Commissioner Luke Corona,
Yes.
Vice Chair Kevin Henderson.
Yes,
The motion carries.
thank you, everyone.
You're adjourned.